Well, if I got to sit down and write a script of somebody that was going to make it in drag racing, I think the career I had would have at least been on the list. Young kid, first race I ever saw, I was 9 years old, and not many people at 9 years old see something and say, I want to make a living doing this, and ultimately are able to. But it's like everybody else, a lot of being in the right place at the right time with the right people, tremendous amount of help, but it's been a fabulous ride.
There's no greater rags to riches story than Frank Hawley.
Yeah, Hawley jumped on the scene a few years back. Didn't really know much about him before he got into the Chi-Town Hustler car, though.
In the 4 lane is the last car that Hawley ran in the sportsman ranks, a little alcohol funny car, before applying literally through the mail to car owner Austin Coil. He says, I'm a good driver and I'll race cheap. Austin said, come on, young man. You're just what I've been looking for. And boy, did he turn out to be good.
Driver for the Chi-Town Hustler, and we had heard this kid had a lot of talent, but that he was occasionally over his head. So, you know, we told him that we sawed the roll cage off our car and, you know, and just soldered it back on, and so if he crashed, he'd certainly die, so you'd better be careful. He was never really sure if we were telling the truth or not, but he was mighty careful, which was necessary for us to survive back in those days.
Well, I think if I have a couple sons, and if they had an interest in being drag racers, I would like to help them. There's several other people I would like to have mentor them. Austin Coil wouldn't be one of them. He's one of my heroes. He's an incredible person, a great mind. I believe one of the brightest minds that's ever been in our sport. I learned a tremendous amount from him, but boy, I'll tell you, he was tough, and he was kind of crazy, and he was demanding, and he was really, really a character, and you had to get to know Austin to really, really appreciate him. So we're at a 2-car match race in a small town in the southeast, and I literally do not remember the racetrack. And I've also heard that this didn't happen this way, but I was there, and my recollection of it, we made our first run, did the burnouts, backing up, and I back up pretty fast. I got back behind the starting line, stopped, and the driver in the other lane was backing up. I could see somebody that apparently was a track worker leaning down, wiping up something off the ground, and it looked like a collision was going to happen, and the race car in the right lane backed up over top of this guy, and he was kind of laying underneath the right rear tire. And I'm panicking in the car, and I'm pointing over at the car, and so Coil could maybe see this and tell me to shut the engine off and we could help or whatever. But you have to understand the dynamic that's going on in the race car, because you're in the race car driving it, your crew chief's outside, and normally the only thing you would want to bring attention to your crew chief is something on your car. So Austin keeps looking at our car as though I'm pointing at a fuel leak, but I can't get him to look across the racetrack. And the other driver kind of hit the throttle to try and back up, and it spun the guy around, and he got stuck up on the front side of the wheel by the aluminum, and now I'm thinking, he didn't die, but I'm thinking he's dead. And finally, they're lifting the body up, and they're trying to get the guy out, and Austin scans over, and he sees this. So now I think we're going to shut off, and what Austin does is quickly pull me up to the stage light, and he tells me everything's okay, go. And if Austin tells you to go, it doesn't matter if it's raining, snowing, or all the lights went out, you go. And so I made the run, and I get down the end, and I'm pretty excited and kind of emotional, and he said, you know, if we don't run, we don't get paid. And that was the premise. So it wouldn't matter what happened in the other lane. We needed to get our money and run down the racetrack. And we went back, helped the other driver clean things up. And, whatever, hour and a half later, we made our second lap. And that was probably only the fourth or fifth time I ever drove for Austin. I thought, my God, this is going to be a long career. I'd heard that Austin was a tough boss and a demanding crew chief, and he was also an owner, so you knew that he was never going to get fired and you'd get a new crew chief. But his reputation was stellar. Austin Coil never had cars that weren't fast. The Chi-Town Hustler was a famous car, and the opportunity to drive that car, there would have been nothing. If he told me you can drive the car, but you have to, he could have filled in the blank, and I would have been fine with it. So, to be at that point in my life unemployed, and a kid that was racing an alcohol car, and be able to step into one of the best, fastest nitro funny cars in the world. Nothing was going to stop me.
$250,000 semi-truck and trailer of Billy Meyer, just loaded to the walls with parts and pieces, but Meyer is out of competition. On the other hand, we have the quickest car in eliminations, the Chi-Town Hustler. What year is this truck?
Gosh, I almost forgot. I think it's a 66 or 7 or something around there.
Well, it's quite a contrast to the semi of Myers. In fact, it's got a 1968 Lions drag strip decal on the window. But your low ET, you could leave here with a points lead.
Yeah, I'd driven for Austin for a couple years, and everywhere we went, they used to do a lot of match race stuff, the popular hot rod race, and they'd run 8-car events places across the country. We ran in California and back in the Northeast. And we would run against all the guys that ran all the national events, Billy Meyer and Beetle and Bernstein and the entire group. And when we got there, we were on the national event tracks with the national event competitors, but it wasn't the national event, and we were winning. So I kept prodding, we could go win one of these national events. And they said, well, you don't make enough money doing it, and we've never been a national event car, and we're not going to go follow the NHRA tour. So they got to a point in 1982 where they said, well, okay, we're going to go to California, and we're going to run the manufacturers race at Orange County, which was like the week before Pomona, or 2 weeks. And then we're going to run Pomona. So we go to the biggest funny car race of all time, at least at that point in my career, the manufacturers race at Orange County, and we win. And so we're favored going into Pomona. And we go to Pomona, and we're #1 qualifier. And we go to the semifinals. And we're leaving, and Austin and Pat Minnick communicate, and we're not even back to Chicago. And they said, we got a little bit of help to go to Gainesville to the Gatornationals, but that's it. We did so well on the West Coast. We'll try one more race, and they got a few $1,000 from somebody to help them come down here. And we came down to the Gatornationals, and we won. And it was my first NHRA national event win ever, and also Austin's. And then they said, maybe we'll go to the next one. And that kind of started. It was a race-by-race deal throughout the entire season, and we ended up winning the World Championship.
Frank Hawley has been dominating that left-hand lane, and the parachute comes out on Tim Gross's car. He loses as the vibration shakes the parachute out of the car, and another blistering 6.07 for Frank Hawley as the Chi-Town Hustler picks up nearly $20,000 and a Gatornationals championship. Steve?
Coming out of the legendary Chi-Town Hustler of Austin Coil and Minnick, loved all over the country for its long, powerful burnouts, has now proven to be championship caliber as well. For Frank Hawley, his first ever national title. For the car owners, well, they were in a final once before many years ago, but for them, their first NHRA Oscar as well. Tim Gross comes over, who worked so very, very hard to get his car ready. Tim may have even had a little bit of an edge back at the line, but the powerful Chi-Town did it. Something else, boy.
Thank you very much. It feels pretty good. Those guys all look pretty happy.
I'll bet they are. A little bit of shock here. Can you believe this has happened to you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you drive a car like this, it's bound to happen, right? I'm real happy for Tim, too. I mean, he works real hard. Glad to race him. I wish, of course, you know, we could have advantaged our deal at Pomona. I wish Raymond had been around this long, but we'll get him down the road.
Well, the money went to where it was needed the most in this particular final.
Boy, I'll tell you, and it's about time.
Okay, a happy Frank Hawley, as you can see. Our congratulations to Austin Coil.
There's, you know, with the World Championship and the points, it's an interesting kind of dynamic because everybody's counting points. We can all count at least. And I was standing at the end of the shutdown area with Steve Evans at Orange County. And if Billy Meyer lost this round of competition, we were the world champions. And so when the win light came on and it wasn't on Billy's side, we were jumping up and down. And the first moment I actually spent was with Steve Evans, and we were talking. And then Billy came around the corner pretty fast, chute's still out, and just about knocked Steve and I down. And then Steve had some funny comment about, well, Billy's going to take you out somehow. And so it was a pretty special night.
He's probably not going to win this. You're already on the payroll, but there's a big discrepancy between 25,000 and 5,000 runner-up.
Well, the race isn't over yet. Did we get runner-up? We still got a chance at winning this deal.
Oh, I know you do.
Yeah, and, you know, the six flat, you know, a lot of things can happen between now and the final.
The rising superstar in funny car racing, Frank Hawley driving the Chi-Town Hustler against the crafty, cagey veteran, Don the Snake Prudhomme, the four-time world champion.
The most emotional moment I've ever had, and I was the big Bud Shootout against Prudhomme, the first race ever, and it was pretty much because my wife was with me. My mom and dad were both there. My dad went through the Second World War on a destroyer crossing the North Atlantic. He'd seen a lot of bad things happen in his life. I don't think I ever saw a tear in my dad's eye until we won that race that day and beat Prudhomme in the final. And I get emotional. I may not jump up and down and wave my arms, but to be down at the end of the track and beat Prudhomme, who was amazingly fast, win the biggest amount of cash ever given for a drag race, and have my new wife and my mom and dad there and a tear in my dad's eye, I thought you can't get any better than this. I was standing on the starting line at the Gatornationals. The final was being run pretty late that night, and watched Darrell Gwynn win the Gatornationals, and his wife Lisa was jumping on the starting line, and Benny and Jerry Gwynn were hugging, and it was a fabulous moment. And to realize that just several weeks later, Darrell would be, partially paralyzed and laying in a hospital bed in England was just inconceivable. They had a Coors contract that they had to fulfill, and I got a call at home, and it was Darrell. And Darrell was lying in the hospital bed in England, still had the halo on his head, couldn't move. This is very shortly after his accident, and Jerry was holding the phone up to his ear so Darrell could talk to me. And Darrell said, would you finish out the Coors contract for me? And I said yes, without any details, just yes, because I'd raced with Jerry and I knew the family and Joan, and they're just wonderful people. And it was later that I'd asked Darrell, a lot of really good race car drivers, why would you choose me? And Darrell said, well, I think you're a really good driver, and you'll take good care of my car, and you won't wreck it, and so on. And he says, and I don't think you'll spend the next couple of years trying to take my sponsor away from me. And there's part of me that thought that was sad, that was one of the reasons. And then part of me felt kind of honored that he trusted me with his, not just his race car, but his business relationships to represent him well too. So there was a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on at that point.
Everyone in Top Fuel has said, if the Gwynn car comes back with a capable driver, it will be unstoppable. Frank Hawley, obviously more than capable, and they were right. The gold car could not be stopped.
I think it's all been said. I mean, this has got to be a storybook finish. You bet. This is for Darrell, and when he watches this, he's going to know what we're talking about. The car, I said it before, the car's set up so perfectly that as a driver, in spite of the fact that I think I'm capable, it's just a winner. That Coors team, they supported Darrell with a driver switch, which they didn't have to do. And Ken Vaney and Gary Clark and Jerry and the rest of the guys, they put the car in a winner's circle. I just try not to make any mistakes.
We have just received word you have been voted the Goodyear driver of the race, Frank.
You know, that's neat because I've been watching that Goodyear driver work for a while, sitting at home, and I didn't know how in the world I was going to win it. So it's obviously thanks to Darrell Gwynn put me here. This is really his spot, this little piece of real estate. Darrell's, and I'm just occupying it for a while.
Thank you, Frank.
We spent the winter in California once we started running well with Austin and the Chi-Town car, and I like race cars. I like road racing, I like fast street cars, I like NASCAR, I just like anything. And they had a road racing school, Formula Fords, the Jim Russell British School of Motor Racing, and it was at Riverside, the old Riverside Raceway, and I thought, wow, I'll go out there and I want to drive one of those things because we've got a couple months we're not doing much while we're in California. I enjoyed it. It was a great school. Went back, did some of their lapping days, competed in some of their school races, realized that I shouldn't quit my day job as good as I thought I was. There were 13-year-old kids that were faster. So after I had attended the school, several months had gone by, and you know, there's only a couple places you could go learn how to race a car, and one would be Formula Fords. You know, there's a Bondurant, there's Skip Barber, and there's Russell, but there's no place you can go to learn to drive anything else. I bet you somebody would like to drive a drag race car. So we put together the idea, made a little business plan, looked around where we would like to be as a location, and went and found a few investors that said, I don't know, maybe it might kind of work, and I got some money put together, and in the spring of 1985 we opened Frank Hawley's drag racing school, and we've been in operation ever since. I like to learn stuff. I think that I spent a lot of my years earlier in life that, you know, I don't know if it wasn't that I wasn't inquisitive, but I was only inquisitive. I was narrow. It was the race car, it was the tires, it was the clutch, it was the next racetrack, it was feed myself in between, and so on. And as I got older, and really, a lot of it was driven by the customers we've had at a racing school over the years. You know, you meet 25,000 people. There's a lot of really fascinating people along the way. And I met engineers and psychologists and social workers and surgeons and pilots and people that own huge companies and businesses and actors and professional sports people. as I started to meet these people, I found out that that's pretty fascinating what you do and how you do it. And so I started becoming more interested in what everybody else was doing in the world. And kind of as a result of that, I became a prolific reader. And I don't read any fiction because I just find that there's so many other things in the world that are fascinating, and there's so many smart people out there. And so I think one of the things that I enjoy on a day-to-day or year-to-year basis is just kind of expanding my knowledge and understanding of what other people do. And I don't know that I've ever got a really good understanding of any one topic, but I've got a decent understanding of a wide range of topics. And so I would say just kind of expanding my understanding of the world and people and what they do. I'm absolutely fascinated by that. You can't do something like this without a lot of people helping financially, a lot of smart people organizing the team or the cars. You can't do this without the folks that have the racetracks that organize this and put the events on. You can't do it without fans wanting to come and watch you race. And the fact that I was a part of that for many, many, many years, and somebody said, hey, he's accomplished a lot of this stuff, let's give him this award, put him in the Hall of Fame. That's wonderful. But I see it as kind of a celebration of everybody that ever helped me in any way to get there. Most important thing in my life is my family. There isn't anything else second on the list. There's another list, but that's clearly the most important thing. I have a lot of really good friends. I think that I could step out into any racetrack, anywhere in the country, walk into any pit area, and be greeted with a smile and a handshake. There may be some people that don't like me, but it wouldn't be because I ever screwed them. I think I'm honorable, and I had a lot of fun doing what I'm doing, and I hope that the passion I've had for the sport continues on, and that we've got another generation that likes it half as much as I did, and if that happens, it's got a healthy future.